there wasn't like a streetwear movement. It was really more just like young people doing their own thing. And it could come out of many different places. Like it could have been like a graffiti kid or a skateboard kid or a music kid or, surf person. Like it was coming from all these different places and people were just doing their own thing. People were just doing their own thing. People were just doing their own thing. People were just doing their own thing.
Mad liberator. Death operator.
That's my closet. I don't have very many clothes.
In the early 1900s, right after World War I and II, people wore what the average doom scroller would call suiting or tailoring, which isn't the correct term, but most people would understand what it is you mean. This era's style saw men, women, and children donning very much similar styles, with differences between the wealthy and the working class, as well as differences between the different sexes. After World War II, in particular, American troops would return home and return to their normal lives, as the everyday man was required and recruited for drafting in the army. During this time, of the men who left the military and returned to their normal professions, most kept and wore military pieces in their day-to-day dress. Decades that would follow saw the rise of casual styles, in which society would begin to focus on creating a separation between the corporate world and other professions. The US in the 1950s and 60s would enter its casual and leisure era. From this, casual attire would be birthed, and the multiple different images created to showcase this new life, or what some would consider a societal propaganda campaign of the American dream, would begin to take root with the aforementioned images of a nuclear family and the ideal image of a white American middle class. At the same time, this dream marginalized groups like African American families, single women, working class individuals, and other racial groups who did not fit into the suburban lifestyle image that the US was trying to portray and capture, simply because of specific selective categories and discrimination which acted as barriers of entry and restriction. For the newly established American middle class, this meant that there was more downtime, more money for families and leisure activities. This period was so serious that even the Looney Tunes cartoons would portray this sort of idealistic lifestyle, which required more easy clothing, if you will. Fast forward bit and you would see the rise of sportswear, as home exercise videos would become a popular pastime activity during the 1970s, as well as the rise of sporting culture and the early format of hip-hop would be cooking in the kitchen under disco rap. From the 70s till present, sports, African American culture, and Hollywood's influence would spread across the world and showcase American fashion, music, art, and lifestyles to the world. It's from this time point that streetwear as we know it would begin to rise and take shape. In today's inauthentic social media landscape, culture is more so an aspect of cosplay for some and a reality for others. The society stands divided between who's real and who's posing, with poses redefined as performative males, but that's not today's real talking point. Over the past 10 years, streetwear has died out. Well, that's if you believe GQ articles and your favorite, oh my gosh, come with me. The thing is, in order for something to die out in fashion, there has to be no one in that specific culture or subculture producing product or content. So with that said, what is streetwear ultimately? The term streetwear is a industry plant to the styles that kids from New York and Los Angeles brought in by fusing sportswear, workwear, and pieces from everyday men's wear as well as women's wear and styling them in different ways. This was ultimately styles relating to hip-hop, skate, surf, grunge, punk, and so on, which led to the recently trending styles of the early 2000s as well as the swag era of the 2010s. Prior to this, you had 80s hip-hop styles, 90s hip-hop styles, and right after the swag era, you had the hypebeast phase, followed by the tote bag warriors or the conveyor belt boys, which morphed into the performative male, aka the hypebeast fully realized.
Third one. I
I got a good title for this third one. And the third one is going to be the conveyor belt streetwear fashion guy. I say conveyor belt because all of them, every single one of them are identical. And I cannot tell one from the other. This is another topic I've explained many times, but I had to bring this up.
And ever since these three eras, the idea of streetwear being dead and the styles being played out by the likes of Demna's Balenciaga sparked philosophical debates between tote bag bros and pumpkin spice latte panda dunk wearing girlies, who ultimately entered the streetwear scene during the late 2010s, riding the last bits of the supposed trend and not a culture. Their entry was largely to become influencers, which I ain't mad at, get your back by any means. However, because of their participation, they really didn't get the style roots and being a part of a specific culture. Skaters still dress like skaters, rappers still dress like rappers, hip-hop dancers still like, you get the point I'm trying to make. These groups and their expressions of styles and tastes very much form part of what it is they do on a day-to-day basis. Now, since this channel's main audience is men, we can say that streetwear is kind of dead, and I'll explain, for men at least. But first, introduction to psychology. In the field of psychology, our world is made up of schemas. A schema is a mental framework or a organizational pattern of thoughts that helps individuals interpret information and guide behavior. These cognitive structures are developed through experience and act as a mental shortcut that help people take in vast amounts of information, process them, and understand complex situations. Schemas can also take on many forms. However, they can also lead to biases like stereotyping if they become rigid or are based on limited experiences. This in the fashion space is men being called gay for wearing bright colors, flowy silhouette, or handbags, or categorizing black designers in streetwear categories because they come from a music background or use music as a point of inspiration for their collections, or simply on the basis that they are black, thus they are creating streetwear. Or the idea that creative directors only have one style of design, or in streetwear's case, hoodies, sneakers, baggy silhouettes, graphic prints. By this logic, we can include a whole host of brands and designers whose collections would fall into streetwear even though streetwear wasn't the main inspiration, when the name itself tells you what streetwear is. The style the everyday person wears on the street. In places like the UK, this is referred to as street style. However, streetwear is real despite its naming convention coming from a industry plant. To the OGs and the unks, it was simply swag and hip-hop. It wasn't really confined to one particular style, but in fact had many different style inputs under its umbrella. Media, on the other hand, made it seem that streetwear was one thing. But it wasn't. It never was. It's always shifting, changing its persona and outlook, which makes sense given that the subculture was largely youth-driven, which is why the idea that graphics is a streetwear adjacent thing, as if menswear didn't include printed shirts, that a specific mustache wearing PI that makes your mom and grandma blush when they see an image of him. Moreover, y'all forget that Tommy Hilfiger Polo had a bunch of like graphics in the early 90s and early 2000s. Yeah, but either way, back to that PI. That guy wore floral printed shirts. That's a graphic, and he put that ish on. But somehow we consider the idea of graphic prints childish and streetwear adjacent. But that's enough slow cooking for now. Let's get to the beef. And for the vegetarians and the vegans, we got salad as well. The male streetwear scene has always been in a state of limbo, only really pushed forward by a select few individuals. As such, people have moved on from the singular selective concept of streetwear in favor of old money styles, which again isn't a true style. So the social image of streetwear is dead in the same sense of its IRL presence as well as its social media presence. However, it's an entirely different story on the woman's side of the spectrum. Historically and across cultures, women have acted as cultural preservers, reliquaries if you will, archiving, preserving, maintaining, and reviving the culture to which they vanguard, sometimes even innovating as well. But it's also where you find streetwear in terms of styling and creating rare one-of-one pieces is pushed and experimented with, where there's really no limit. My insight as to why women's streetwear superposes men's streetwear is in large part to the limitation male fashion has within their heterosexual relations with one another, meaning we as men won't wear something unless the boys, gang, squad, man them also pull up in the same fit. Hence, women have greater political freedom when it comes to their expression through fashion, which is why Pinterest is flooded with amazing female style creators whose outfits are just out of this world. Like, these women redefine fit, drip, and water, to which I cannot even fathom. I'm flooded, bro. This is like Giyu Tomioka's 11th form, bro. But it's a process, even. But they also beat us out in early 2000s hip-hop. I'm sorry to say it, but like, legitimately, they do beat us out. So next time somebody says that streetwear is dead, just show them the amazing fits women in streetwear are cooking up, as well as the select streetwear brands I've been plugging you guys with on the older videos. So yeah, you might want to showcase some of that. But anyways, my name is E. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. And if you don't, use a nub.